Ignoring inflation can be devastating for your money. It is the silent destroyer of wealth. It is the single biggest risk that most of us face throughout our financial lives. The cost of a pint of beer was about £1 when I was 20. Now the cost of a beer is about £4 when I'm 50. That's 30 years. So price of a pint of beer has increased by 4 times in 30 years. Now 30 years is an important time because it's typically most people's retirement. Retire at 60, live to late 80s, 90. It's 30 years, so it's a typical length of retirement, and ignoring inflation can have a huge impact on your retirement money. So through the course of a typical retirement, the price of a pint of beer has increased 4-fold. That means a basket of shopping that cost £100 could cost £400 in 30 years' time. Now, if your retirement income hasn't increased to keep pace with that, you're going to be reducing your standard of living. In this 444, I am going to look at the 4 areas that inflation can have the biggest impact on your money. They are the value of your money, savings, withdrawals, and allowances. Hey there, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Hugh and I'm a retirement specialist and money coach at Proposito Financial Planning, based here in the heart of the Cotswolds. And on this channel, we look at the tools, strategies, and money habits that can help you make the most of your life force, and that's your time, your energy, and your ability, so you can live a life with more meaning and more happiness. If you like what we're doing, hit the like button, click subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you can find out when we release our next video. Today is all about inflation. I'm not going to go into the pros and cons of inflation. That's for another time. I'm also not going to delve into the difference between CPI and RPI, the Consumer Prices Index, and the Retail Prices Index. Instead, I'm going to focus on the areas in your financial life that inflation can have the biggest impact. Right, let's get into inflation. Inflation impacts the value of everything. Now, I mentioned that a price of beer in the late 80s was about £1, and the price of beer now is about £4. That's inflation. So inflation increases the price of everything, and it's measured by the government using a few different measures. There's the Retail Prices Index, RPI, and there's the Consumer Prices Index, CPI. I'm not going to go into the difference between the two and the constituents. Essentially, those two indexes just measure the increase in prices across a basket of goods. So if you imagine a shopping basket of goods, then what the Retail Prices Index and the Consumer Prices Index does is look at the changes in the cost of that basket of goods month by month. Now, it's October 2021 and CPI was 3.1% up to the end of September. And it's down from 3.2% up to the end of August. Now, what does that mean? Well, let's take the 3.2% inflation figure to the end of August 2021. So inflation to the end of August was 3.2%. So that means that the cost of the basket of goods was 3.2% more expensive than 12 months ago. So inflation figures cover a rolling 12-month period. So when inflation at the end of August, published in September, was 3.2%, what that means is that the cost of the basket of goods was 3.2% more expensive in August 2021 than it was in August 2020. Now, in September, the Consumer Prices Index was 3.1%, so it decreased slightly, but it still means that the increase in prices from September 2020 to September 2021 is 3.1%. So things are more expensive by 3.1% generally. The inflation figure for September is really important because it's the inflation figure in September that's published in October that determines the increase in a whole load of state benefits and other things. So it's actually, of all the inflation figures across the 12 months, the one to the end of September that's published in October, the one that's just been, is the one that has the biggest impact on everything we do. Inflation figures and the CPI and RPI are generalizations. And actually, they only apply to your life if you actually buy what's in that representative basket of goods. Now, if you buy less stuff that's in that representative basket of goods, or you buy more stuff that's in that representative basket of goods, your personal rate of inflation will be different from those published of 3.1% in September. Okay, so if you have more, if you tend to purchase more things in that basket of goods, then your personal rate of inflation to the 12 months to the end of September might be higher than 3.1%, and if you less, then your rate of inflation will be lower. So how does the inflation figure impact your money? Well, let's imagine you have £100 in the bank in September 2020, and you can use that £100 to buy a basket of goods, and you spend it on a shopping trolley full of stuff. And so you've got in your shopping trolley £100 worth of stuff. Now, fast forward to September 2021, where the prices are 3.1% increased, then you won't be able to buy the same basket of goods with your £100. The purchasing power of your £100 will have reduced. You'll actually need £103.10p to buy the same goods in September 2021. Now, the Bank of England is tasked with keeping inflation at or around a 2% level. So at the moment, inflation is above the Bank of England's target. Now, the Bank of England likes to control inflation by using interest rates, but there's a problem with that. And the problem is this: a big chunk of the inflation that applies to the goods and services we buy in that basket of goods is not controllable by the Bank of England. For example, the increase in fossil fuel prices is increased globally, and the UK has very little impact on the price of natural gas, petrol, oil. All those things are governed by the world market, and things that the Bank of England can do have no impact globally. So there's a huge chunk of inflation that we just aren't in control of. So the Bank of England can control inflation up to a point, but there's a huge chunk of it that we just are not able to control from within the borders of the UK. So the second way that inflation can really impact your personal wealth is in the area of savings. Now, it's always good to save money, and you should always be putting money aside, and it's the basis of retirement planning to don't spend your money now so that you can spend it in the future. So it's important to remember there are only 3 things that you can do with money once you've paid all your bills and honoured all your commitments. The first one is that you can spend it on having fun today to build memories with the people that you care about. The second thing is you can invest it so that you can spend it in the future on having fun and building memories with the people you care about, or you can give it away. And they're the only 3 things that you can do with money, and it's really important to do that. So when it comes to saving, what we're doing is we're deferring the spending. We're not spending it today when our income is high so that we can spend it in the future when our income is lower. And that's the essence of retirement planning. Don't spend everything today, keep it, and then spend it in the future. Now, the problem with that when it comes to inflation is that if you're saving £50 a month and you save £50 a month for 30 years, that £50 a month is worth much less at the end of that 30 years than at the start, because inflation has eroded that value. And if you take the pint of beer analogy, the pint of beer has increased in value from £1, or the cost of a pint of beer has increased in value from £1 to £4. And if you were saving £50 in the late 80s, you would have had to increase that to £200 30 years later, just so that the value of the money you were putting away keeps pace with inflation. With inflation running at 3%, then you can see that you regularly need to be increasing the value of the money that you save. Otherwise, you're putting less in real terms. Now, it's really good practice when it comes to saving to First of all, automate your saving, so it comes out automatically. Have it coming out at the start of a period. Don't wait till the end. Oh, I'm gonna start saving at the end of the month. I'm gonna see what's left and then I'm gonna save that. Doesn't work. Do you know why? Because there's never anything left at the end of the month. Take it out of your account as soon as you get paid. It's called paying your future self first, investing in your future self, and it is a decision that your future self will thank you for. And keep increasing the amount you save. Start off at £50. After a couple of months, increase it to £55. There's only an extra £5. You can save that with a couple of coffees. Don't buy a couple of coffees or a pint of beer. And after a couple of months, increase it to £60, £65, £70, £75, £80. Keep making changes in life. As you get used to a regular amount coming out, increase it. If you get a pay rise, increase the amount you save. Always keep increasing the amount you save. Your future self will thank you for having the discipline of putting money aside to spend when your income is lower. Inflation can also have a big impact on the money you take out of your accounts, particularly when you're in retirement. So let's say you've spent 30 years saving up for your retirement and you've come to that point where you're now going to start spending the money that you've accumulated when your income is lower, and now you're taking withdrawals out of your money. So if you're taking £100 a month out and you keep going with £100 a month each and every month for the whole of a 30-year period, the purchasing power of that £100 is much less. To use the beer analogy again, if a pint of beer costs £1 in the late 80s and it costs £4 today, then if you're taking out £100 in the late 80s as your retirement income, that would have had to increase to £400 to enable you to have the same standard of living in retirement. So you have to take account of the fact that inflation erodes the value of what you take out. And actually what you need to do with inflation at 3.1%, if you started taking £100 out in September 2020, you would need to increase that to £103 in September 2021. And in September 2022, whatever the inflation figure is, you'd have to increase your £103.10p by the same amount. And you need to have a withdrawal strategy that accounts for inflation, so that the amount of money you're taking out enables you to maintain your current standard of living. Otherwise, if you take out a fixed amount that doesn't increase with inflation, your standard of living will start to go down because your withdrawals aren't keeping up with the increases in price of everything you're looking to buy. So it's really important to have inflation factored into your withdrawal strategy, and to make sure your withdrawal strategy is sustainable when you account for inflation. The final place that inflation can really impact your finances is with allowances. Some allowances increase with inflation, but in the last budget, the Chancellor announced a freeze on the increase of some allowances that had been scheduled to increase by inflation. Now, the main one that springs to mind is the inheritance tax threshold. So the inheritance tax threshold, which is currently using the residence nil rate band and the nil rate band, is £500,000 per person. So £1 million for married couple or couple in a civil partnership. And that was due to increase by inflation every year to maintain the value of that allowance. So it would increase by inflation, so it was still worth £1 million in future terms. Now that's not happened. The increase of that has been frozen until 2026. So that means that £1 million will be in place for the next 5 years, but the real value of that will be eroded by inflation over the next 5 years. Other area where inflation was due to increase the allowance was the lifetime allowance for pensions. So the lifetime allowance for pensions is £1.07 million, and that was due to increase by inflation. So what that means is, because it's no longer going up by inflation, more and more people will be paying a lifetime allowance charge on their pensions, because their pensions will be increasing in value, but the lifetime allowance is not increasing in value. And so more and more people will find their pensions are over the lifetime allowance, meaning they are liable to pay tax on the surplus when they crystallise their benefits. So that's 4 areas where inflation can have a devastating impact on your wealth. It can have an impact on the values, the impact on the savings, the money going in, impact on the withdrawals, the money coming out, and also the impact on the increases of allowances so that they reduce in real terms. If you like this 444 video, check out these other 2 444s, which I'm sure you're going to love. Until next time, take care.